Hello, everybody, and welcome. In this next series of videos, I'm going to be covering the Defold game engine. And I'm going to start this episode by just introducing you to the website where the documentation is, and I'm going to download the engine and open up a new project by the end of this video. So I will go ahead and start by sharing my screen, and we'll jump right into it. There we go. So I'll pull over my internet tab over here. So I'm in my browser. So one of the first things I'm going to do is type in Defold, Defold. And it would probably help if I typed in game engine, but you'll see that it's popping up here for me. So I'm going to look for defold.com. It's the official homepage. This is the little icon. It's a little plus sign of a cube. So every side of the cube is a plus sign. So this is what the website looks like. Now, Defold is a free game engine. They're very similar to Godot or even G-Develop to some degree, but there is no like paid version. So Defold is completely open source. Again, very similar to Godot, and it is lightweight and pretty performant for what it is. Now, it is pretty regularly supported. There are 3D features for it, but it is mostly suited as a 2D game engine. There are, as of recording this video, October 2024, there are more 3D components and like 3D compatibility being kind of rolled out all the time. So it's mostly a 2D game engine, but there are 3D components and capabilities in it. It's really easy. All you have to do is download it and you're good to go. Again, it's completely open source. Anything you make in this game is yours to keep, and any money you make off of any games made in Defold is 100% yours. Not only that, they have a really a large wealth of resources for learning Godot, or oh wow, learning Defold, I should say. And if we hit this Learn tab up here, you'll see that there are several other kind of sub tabs under this section. It starts with tutorials. So these are all tutorial projects. If you click on one of these, it takes you to just these kind of like walkthroughs. So you can download a project. You can also read the full tutorial text on GitHub. So if you've ever used GitHub before, they walk you through, they don't walk you through. They use GitHub a lot. So even the full Defold supported some of these tutorials and projects are going to be on GitHub. So this is a way you can kind of share projects on the web. It's free to make an account, but you don't have to make an account to download these projects from GitHub. So I'll go back up to tutorials. These tutorials actually are built into the game engine. So you can open up these projects in the engine through their project manager. And you can open up these tutorials and they have like text documents with the projects that guide you through them. There are also examples. So if you want to like see example projects and things like that, they show you this and they give you some like brief setup. This one, they've got a couple other kind of different things. So animations, basics, parent-child. So they show you kind of like parent-child relations here. And you can, interact with this. So you can click on the bunny and then it shows you kind of how this is structured and what code you're using. So if you're not really familiar with code, Defold does work with code. You're going to have to learn the script. Defold actually works with Lua. It's a programming language. It's a pretty simple language. If you're new to coding, it's a great way to start and get familiar. It akin to Python, but even a little simpler. So this examples page is really valuable. So you can see all sorts of different topics here, and they have interactable kind of games. So you can click to move, and then it shows you kind of code snippets for how this is all structuring. So whether you're good with code, if you're a novice with code and never written a line before, this can be really valuable. Next are video. So plenty of video tutorials, pretty, bar for the course, or par for the course, I should say. That's the bar, right? The standard. But unfolding Defold. So these, if I click on these videos, it might take me to YouTube. Yep, here we go. So this user, Unfolding Game Dev, is pretty much the like official, unofficial YouTube channel for Defold. There's a lot of good content on there, and that seems to be what they link from the direct website. But there are a couple playlists on that Unfolding Game Dev channel, and they really go into the nuts and bolts of Defold. So if you're interested in this game engine, that's another great place to check out. Then manuals. Manuals are really great. I love manuals. I suggest reading through the manual, especially if this is your first time working in Defold, and you're getting familiar with a lot of kind of like new concepts and ways things work. They have a lot of good info in here. They cover even installing Defold, introduction just to the engine. You also have projects set up here, so creating a project, project settings, sharing projects. They have an overview of the editor itself. In this page, they talk about Lua. They talk about their collection of simple examples, which is what I was just showing. They have a page dedicated to the editor, so the editor overview, and a lot of other different wonderful things. So game tutorials and content in here. I really, really suggest reading through all this stuff, especially the default building blocks. So this talks about like the three kind of major assets or aspects of developing in Defold. And then I also just the whole getting started, and the editor overview is pretty helpful too for learning how each window works. Then they have courses. So these are Zenva courses. There is one free one, and I think this is also offered as a extended YouTube video on YouTube. And I think the rest of these are maybe paid for. API reference. So this is going to be valuable, again, if you're unfamiliar with coding and this is maybe the first time you've worked with script. This can be really helpful in getting commands that are built into scripting in Defold. So these are going to be commands that you're looking for every object. And it not only shows you what the command line is in actual script, it tells you what it does or what it's calling. So I really would recommend starting here. You'll see a lot of these start with GO, which just stands for game object. So that's going to be common in Defold. I click on this, it'll also show me like an example of what this line would look like, a little bit more of a details, and then parameters and examples. So this is really valuable, that API. Now I'm going to click back on the default icon and it'll take me back to the Learn page. Then they have an FAQ and a code pad, which I have not really used myself. But this is just a way you can kind of play around and kind of test different things without being in the actual engine. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with downloading Defold. All you have to do is hit this download button. And then I am on a Windows machine, so I will be downloading the Windows version, but you'll download whatever version is appropriate for you. If you have Ubuntu or Linux, then you'll be downloading this one. If you have a Mac, then you'll be downloading this one with the Apple. No, you can also download Defold on Steam. It's still free there. It's just, do you want to be working in Defold through Steam just to count how many hours you've used it, or do you want to kind of use it at your own leisure? I like to use it as a desktop app. I don't like to go open apps through Steam. So I'm going to hit download for Windows. You'll see that it will start downloading. Okay, so I will go to my downloads folder. And now I have my Defold x86, 64, Win32. I'm going to unzip this folder. So right click and extract all, hit enter. Oop. There we go. We're getting there. Okay. So now I have my folder right here. What I'm going to do is open this up. I'm going to get rid of my browser for now. And I'll see another folder with Defold, like the name Defold in it. And if I open this up, now I'm seeing that I have a .exe file, a .png, and a config file, and then my packages folder. And in the packages folder, there's some other content. So what you want to do is you really want to keep all of this together. So I'm going to back out. I'm going to keep this Defold folder, and what I'm going to do is actually just drag it to my desktop and drop it right in with some other tools that I often use. And now I can treat this just like an icon, right? So if I open this folder, I can click the defold.exe, and it should, here we go. And you should see the like little Defold splash screen, and this means that it is loading up. And there we go. So I have my little project manager window. So this will be common in a lot of game engines, and some of the game engines I've covered have had this. Most of them have, but this is just like your starting splash screen. So I do have two projects in here, like little tutorial demo projects that I've worked on in the past, just goofing with. But I can also see or click new project, and now I have several options for projects that I can create. And I can create from a template. If I hit from tutorial, you'll see that I can create projects from a tutorial. It includes several assets already baked in. And these are going to be the same projects we're looking at on the website. And then from a sample. So these are sample games. So these games are actually complete and finished games. You can use these to get an idea how a mechanic or a system works. So this one has a HUD. They demonstrate effects for score counting. So using like UI components to count a score. Parallax just shows like things in the background further away from our camera tend to move slower than things closer to our camera. And these all have a different kind of component or something that they're trying to highlight, these sample projects. The from tutorial, again, these are tutorials. They will walk you through everything. But what I'm going to do is actually do a new project. And one of the first things you'll want to do if this is your first time in Defold is you'll set up your project destination. Now I already have this because I've worked in Defold and I have created Defold projects in the past. But what I'm going to do is, it might send this by default to your documents. And if you want to save your Defold projects there, by all means do that. But you can click these three dots. And now I have an option of saying, where do I want to save all of my Defold projects? Or where do I want to save this specific project? What I've done is in a hard drive, I have demonstration, no, not that one. Projects, there we go. And I have a folder for Defold projects. And I have my other two projects that showed up. And what I'm going to do is create a new folder. So right click, new folder, and I'll call this new demo project, right? Okay. And I'll hit select folder. And now this is going to save it right there. All right. And actually, yeah, I think that's right. That's good. And side scroller tutorial, I'm going to do a blank project. So I'm going to use it just an empty project. So from template, empty project. You can also choose mobile, mobile, desktop, basic 3D, a platformer game. So this is kind of set up with some of the basics for that, but I'm going to just start with a completely blank project. I guess I'll name it, empty project or maybe new project. And hit create new project. And now we are staring at the wonderful Defold editor. So that's downloading the engine and starting a new project. I will cover some of the details of the editor in greater detail in the next video. But that concludes it for this one. Get in here, play around, start looking through everything, and have fun.